Genshin Impact patch 1.6 has done a huge change to elemental mastery, and there's going to be 5 things we're tackling in this video, whether it's characters, artifacts, or weapons that are even better than before, and these things are just simply way better than before. The big change to 1.6 in elemental mastery is it greatly increases the damage to non-vaporize and non-melt reactions. So the big ones here notably are going to be electrolyze, overload, and of course swirl. And this leads into our first character here, Sucrose, who is already known for stacking elemental mastery. Now swirl was normally something that you didn't really care about. You used it with the Viridescent Venerer set to get that 40% resist down, but now swirl in AoE damage situations, which is a situation that Sucrose finds herself in a lot, is going to be doing massive amounts of damage. As you can see right here, a 500 elemental mastery in 1.6 is going to be boosting swirl by 320%, and that's not the cap of the elemental mastery. You can go up to 1000, you can go up even higher than that. Remember, like we talked about in our Sucrose build guys videos, you're looking for main stat elemental mastery sands, goblet, in circlet there. That's going to get you the most amount of elemental mastery that you can get your hands on. And when you hit these giant elemental masteries on a Sucrose, these giant breakpoints of EM, you're going to be able to do a lot more damage with your support character than you used to be. So one of the best 4-stars in the game got even better in this update. But Sucrose isn't the only animal character in the game that likes to do AoE damage. With swirl, Venti actually has a brand new super insane build, guys, and it's just an elemental mastery build. It's very easy to do, much like your girl Sucrose. You're gonna be building him the same way. You're gonna be building him Viridescent Venerer set, and you're gonna be looking for main stat elemental mastery sands, flowers, as well as goblets, and this is gonna make you do a ton of damage in AoE situations, which is gonna make his elemental burst do just that much more damage. Because remember, when swirl procs, it activates and does AoE damage, so you're gonna be sucking a bunch of people up into Venti's ultimate, and they're gonna be swirling on top of each other. Each swirl is gonna proc and hit every other enemy as well, leading for a ton of damage. It's actually kind of wild how this can beat out like a kind of big tuned build, but only in AoE damage situations. It's how big this buff in 1.6 actually was. Just like Sucrose, you're looking for main stat elemental mastery, cup, circlet, as well as sands here for the elemental mastery build on Venti. If you have the stuff laying around, go try it out. You won't be disappointed with the amount of AoE damage he and she can put out now, while also maintaining and fulfilling their same roles that we're doing before, being your crowd controllers and your supports with the Viridescent Venerer set. Another character that got even better in 1.6 is your boy, good old Albedo, and this is because of his talent Ascension, his second one here. The good old nature, using his elemental burst, will give 125 elemental mastery to your party members for 10 seconds. This got better by a small amount because elemental mastery is wanted more on other characters now. So maybe you have him and Venti in your party, he's doing off damage with his E, and you add elemental mastery, buffing up swirl, buffing up overload more than before, buffing up electro charge in certain team compositions. He's just gonna be playing a more pivotal role in even more teams now than he was before, which is a very hard thing to say about Albedo because he's kind of good anywhere. Now moving on to weapons, there's 2 weapons that I really want to point out here because there are 4 our characters that we just got talked about. The stringless was a fine weapon before, very strong weapon, especially at R5, but now the elemental mastery on this bow as you level it up matters even more. You're gonna go for the elemental mastery build on Venti. Stringless is gonna be your best friend. It's gonna give you up to 48% damage on your E as well as your elemental burst, and have elemental mastery to buff your swirl up, which is going to do multitudes of things for you as far as this elemental mastery damage build. You definitely want to try the swirl out. And the second weapon here is going to be the sacrificial fragments for your girl Sucrose. Was already her best weapon, and it's even better now because that 220 elemental mastery that you're going to get from a maxed out version of the sacrificial fragments grimoire is going to be doing even more for you. It's going to up not only her supportive capabilities, but her damage as well. It's kind of really like a compounding nature with these 2 weapons and these 2 characters, so definitely level them up and put them back on them for these EM builds. But that's not it. Some artifacts are even better for certain team compositions in 1.6. The Crimson Witch of Flame set, which is already a fantastic set for the damage bonus to Pyro and increasing your good old vaporize and melt damage, also increases overload damage. In overload, you can use this on like a support DPS build now if you build around it high EM. High EM, Crimson Witch of the Flame set, big overload damage, crowd control the enemies, throw them around. You can hit some very sizable numbers when it comes to overload now in 1.6. But the set with the biggest buff for it is going to be none other than the Thundering Fury set, often not really utilized to its full potential here. This is because of the new 1.6 changes the different elemental reactions that Electro kind of has access to are buffed up by this set, notably Electrolyze as well as Overloaded. So these are some teams that you can put together and utilize this set. If you're a part of the good old Electrolyze child team, this could be something that you could look into, especially if a C6 official or a Albedo out there who's got her elemental burst that can proc a bunch of Electrolyzes all at the same time. Definitely one of the better buffs to anything in 1.6 is the Thunderbirds set, but you are going to have to be a little bit careful, a little bit on that side of caution when you're using a electrolyzed base team in Genshin Impact, because a lot of the characters that are Hydro that people use for these reactions also tend to hit very fast themselves, such as Child or Xingqiu. And if that's the case and they're hitting faster than the character that is your Electro character, then they're going to be doing the electrolyzed reaction, especially right now in the way that things are set up in Genshin Impact. So keep that one in mind if you're doing an electrolyzed team. Patch 1.6 did bring some nice buffs for some of the best characters already in the game. Sucrose, Albedo, and Venti got buffs. That's weird, and it's because Kazuha is coming out, and that's kind of his shtick as well. Same sort of characters as Venti and Sucrose, so the buffs that are in the game pre-buffing Kazuha are already buffing them up as well. And then obviously some of the best weapons, Sacrificial Fragment, as well as none other than the Stringless, got some substantial buffs with those new EM-based builds for those two characters. Then we had the good old Thundering Fury set brought up from wherever it was right now up into some of a limelight with an Electrolyze or Overload based team reaction. So what does this mean for you guys ultimately, whether you're using Sucrose or Venti? If you're using them before, your Sucrose was probably already built up this way already. If she wasn't, well, you're gonna have the time of your life when you build her full EM. She's supporting your whole team with reactions, and now she's doing more damage of her own from reactions exclusively, which is a huge part of her kit, not gonna lie. And then you can also do that with Venti as well. And then you can go ahead, if you haven't gotten your hands on or you haven't leveled them up yet, because maybe you're new to the game, you have the Stringless laying around, you have the Sacrificial Fragments book laying around, that is definitely something for you to go out there and do. This element reaction 1.6 element mastery buff really affected, in my opinion, Swirl the most. You can do overload stuff, you can do electrolyte stuff. There wasn't really an overload team before, because if you're doing overload, you might want to go do vaporize or melt with your Pyro character instead, because, well, the meta's just not ever going to be balanced enough around those things, in my opinion, for Pyro to want to do something other than melt and vaporize. But you can go out and you can try these new things. That's going to be very good. What does this mean about Kazuha, though? Kazuha is going to be built very similar to what we talked about in this video for Venti with the EM build, or for Sucrose with an EM build. If you take someone like Venti, who was already known for being able to do good DPS, if you build him for crit chance, crit damage with high-end top gear, but he's now got another comparable build, just building elemental mastery, and then you take Kazuha, who has a thing like Sucrose that wants you to build him elemental mastery, that's going to be his go-to build. I know a lot of you guys out there want to pull Kazuha and you want to make him crit chance, crit damage, normal attacker, physical carry, all that stuff. You could do that with anyone. I mean, you can go out there and you can make your Barbara your main vape, melt, whatever DPS, put her in a freeze team and have her do a bunch of damage. Can you go out there and beat the game with that? Yeah. Is she going to be better than anyone else at that? No. So if you get Kazuha, you can build him however you want, but he's already got these buffs lined up right now, what is making Sucrose and Venti so much better. That's definitely the way you're going to want to build him when he comes out, based on everything that we know and don't know, but know, you know what I mean, with predictions in the game of Genshin Impact. So go ahead and think about that before you go and pull for that character. If you already have Venti and Sucrose, you're gonna be building Kazuha the same exact way, except he uses a sword, a cool one at that, but he still uses the same sort of setup as these other two Animo characters. Let me know what your favorite buff for your characters in 1.6 was, if you are using them or not. And if you guys want to see more stuff for Genshin content, then how about you come on back and hit that subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.